Everyone loves a good redemption story, right? Someone who, despite everything they went through, despite the hardships and the failures, they find a way to somehow continue on and even be successful. For my NFL fans, it's kind of like what happened with Baker Mayfield, going from a disappointing what if to a top tier player in a couple of years. Well, the same thing happened in the Overwatch League with one of the best players of all time, Fearless. Today, I'm going to go over that story and go over what makes Fearless's story just so iconic. If you like this video, do me a quick favor and subscribe to the channel. Less than 20% of my viewers are subscribed, and we're less than 50 subscribers away from 2,000, so I'd love to hit that milestone by the end of February. With all that said, let's go all the way back to 2017 to a Korean contenders team named Element Mystic. For those of you who have been in the Overwatch esports scene for quite a long time, you probably remember Element Mystic for their dominant Korean contenders run in 2019. Well, Fearless was on the team before those days, all the way back in the Apex days, with teammates you might remember like Sparkle, Jexy, and Repel. This team was solid, but not world beaters, playing well in some mid-level tournaments, and evidently, Fearless performed well enough to get into the Overwatch League during the inaugural season in 2018. Fearless joined the 2018 Shanghai Dragons, and you might remember this team as the one who lost 40 straight games. To say this Dragons team was complete dogshit would not be an exaggeration. Most of the players on this team were either not ready for the level of play needed, or they were just genuinely terrible. Fearless personally played pretty well, but nowhere near an elite level, and it clearly wasn't anywhere near enough to help this doomed team. His teammates, Dia and Gregory, also tried really hard to help this team win at least one game, but as the season wrapped up, the team finished winless. For a lot of people, this probably would have been the end of their pro career. Good, but not great, and clearly not even good enough to win a game at the top level. Most of his teammates from the 2018 Dragons would end up retiring, or they'd return to contenders and would never return to the Overwatch League again. Their names and reputations were forever stained with the image of the 0-40 Shanghai Dragons, and most didn't return to the Overwatch League ever again. Fearless, however, would not go down that easy. After the 2018 season, Fearless was released by the Shanghai Dragons, where he would return now to contenders for the 2019 season, playing on Team CC, the Dragons' academy team. Team CC played in Chinese contenders, and Fearless seemed to be the anchor holding this team together. They actually had some pretty solid placements, including a second place in the 2019 Contenders Season 2. This CC team had players like Faraway, Gaga, Bunny, and Innovation, but Fearless was clearly the guy on this team. He would show that he was still a very good player, and he could probably be a good piece for an Overwatch League team. So for the 2020 Overwatch League season, he looked to return back to the top level of play for a second chance. Out of all the teams, Fearless somehow returned back to his old home, the Shanghai Dragons, who had really turned their team around during 2019, going from the literal worst team to an above average one, even winning Stage 3 of the 2019 season. A lot of people had doubts about Fearless returning to Shanghai, but he quickly proved them all wrong. This was by far the best team Fearless had ever had around him, with players like Fleta, Void, Izayaki, and a rookie Lee Jae-gon and Lip to help back him up. Fearless was a part of a rotation between himself and Stand 1, but Fearless would soon prove that he was the better main tank, with his Winston play being a key to a lot of the Dragons' success throughout that year. In the 2020 May Melee, the Shanghai Dragons made it all the way to the finals to face off against the Seoul Dynasty. Shanghai decided that for the finals, Stand 1 would be subbed in to play mostly Orisa, but after 3 brutal map losses and the Dynasty having them on match point, the Dragons were growing desperate. They made the call to sub in Fearless for map 4, which was Watchpoint Gibraltar, where Fearless's Winston seemed to light a fire under Shanghai, and they would end up full holding the Seoul Dynasty, where they would answer back with a nice, much-needed map win. The Dragons seemed to wake up with Fearless in the game, and they would proceed to complete the largest reverse sweep ever in Overwatch League history. They were down 0-3, and they managed to clutch up the series 4-3 to win Fearless's first ever stage win, where he would win a very deserved player of the match. Fearless would continue his great play throughout the rest of the year, and the Dragons would finish with the best regular season in Overwatch League history, going an insane 27-2 throughout the year. They would end up finishing second in the Summer Showdown, and would claim the Countdown Cup title in a dominant 4-0 fashion, annihilating the Hangzhou Spark to win their second stage of the year. At the end of the season, Fearless would win his first Role Star, already cementing himself as an insanely good tank player. However, disaster would strike come playoff time, when the infamous 2020 playoff meta changed up the game during the most important tournament of the year. And the surprise Roadhog just caught most teams, Shanghai included, off guard. The Dragons just weren't prepared for this stupid meta, and they lost the playoffs in third place. In 2021, the Dallas Fuel decided that enough was enough and they weren't gonna suck anymore. So they decided to assemble a crazy super team. They kept Doa from the previous year, and they acquired Sparkle, Exy, Fielder, and Hanbin from the Paris Eternal, Repel and Jexy from the Houston Outlaws, and they picked up Fearless from Shanghai to be their main tank player. This team was united under head coach Rush, and it looked to be a top tier contender from day one. They started out a little slow, barely sneaking their way into the May Melee qualifiers, but they were able to eliminate the defending champions San Francisco Shock and upset their Texas rivals, Houston Outlaws, to make it to the international tournament. In the bracket, they would take out the Florida Mayhem and would face Fearless's old team, the Shanghai Dragons, twice. Once in the upper bracket finals and once in the grand finals, where they would barely come out on top both times, getting Fearless's third stage win total. Throughout the 2021 season, the Dallas Fuel would remain a top team, always being a constant threat and finishing as the number 1 seed from North America. Unfortunately, Fearless's old team, the Shanghai Dragons, just tended to get the best of them throughout the season. The Fuel finished second and then third in the following tournaments, and then once playoffs came around, it was a common prediction to have the Dallas Fuel and Shanghai Dragons face off in the grand finals. But something unexpected got in their way. After beating the Washington Justice and the Chengdu Hunters, the Dallas Fuel would face off against the Shanghai Dragons in the upper bracket finals, where the Dragons would beat them 3-1 and send them to face the Atlanta Reign, who were midway through their lower bracket run, which they would upset the Dallas Fuel before ultimately losing to Shanghai in the finals. This ended Fearless's incredible season with yet another third place finish. In 2021, Fearless would receive yet another Roll Star, and in 2022, the Fuel would revamp and go for a title. They would trim a few players and would acquire Edison and Chio, both of whom would be important pieces of this new team. The swap to 5v5 that meant that Fearless would see a lot less playtime, and due to the metas throughout the year, Hanbin was the primary starter for the Dallas Fuel. Fearless would get called on from time to time, but he had to watch from the bench as Hanbin led his team to his 4th stage win. Everything changed, however, when another playoff meta came along, this time with Winston as the meta tank, and Fearless was brought in for the entirety of the playoffs. People had begun to doubt Fearless, due to his limited play and lack of success when he was in, but he proved everyone wrong with some incredible Winston play. This meta seemed practically built for this team, with Edison and Sparkle both on their comfort heroes, and Dallas were dominant, beating the Spark, Dynasty, and Outlaws to make it all the way to the grand finals, where they would face off against the electric San Francisco Shock in one of the single best matches and easily the best grand final in Overwatch League history. Across 7 brutal maps, these teams went back and forth until finally on Colosseo, the Fuel were able to take a lead and finally raise that trophy that they were denied from last season. Fearless won the finals MVP for his play, and he finally achieved the championship he had been fighting for his whole career, turning everything around and showing that he wasn't going to be defined by that 0-40 season. But Fearless wasn't quite done yet. In 2023, Fearless moved over to the Houston Outlaws, joining elite companies such as Violet, Shoe, and Pelican. This team was a powerhouse, and they would clash consistently with the dominant Atlanta Reign, which featured several of his former teammates, Lip, Fielder, and Chio. In the midseason tournament, the Outlaws would fall in a narrow 2-3 loss in the upper bracket finals, and after beating the Florida Mayhem, they would rematch against the Atlanta Reign, where they just couldn't beat them, placing second in the midseason. Luckily for Fearless, he would get his revenge in the summer stage, beating the Reign in a wild 3-2 victory and establishing themselves as the team to beat. The Florida Mayhem, though, would have a crazy resurgence in the second half of the season, and they would beat them early in the summer stage. In the playoffs, the Outlaws would pick up Bernard to play alongside Fearless, and the two made a really deadly duo. After that early loss to the Mayhem, the Outlaws would storm their way through the playoffs, beating the Soul Infernal and taking down Fearless's old team, the Dallas Fuel. They would beat the Hangzhou Spark and move on to face the Florida Mayhem yet again for the grand finals. But they just couldn't beat them. They would end up finishing in second place, and Fearless would receive his 3rd Roll Star for this season, cementing his legacy as one of the Overwatch League greats. Throughout his Overwatch League career, Fearless in total would win 4 stage titles, 3 Role Stars, a championship, a Finals MVP, and in total would place 3rd, 1st, and 2nd after his 0-40 season. Quite an incredible turnaround, and he still wasn't done yet. After the Overwatch League, Fearless would retire for a bit, but he would announce that he'd be joining Zeta Division for the Esports World Cup, where he would help this team dominate, beating Bleed, M80, and ENCE in the group stage, and in the bracket, they would end up beating Space Station Gaming before losing to the Toronto Ultra in one of the best matches post-Overwatch League. Crazy 7-match series that was about as close of a series that it could be. They would finish 3rd through 4th, and this would be where Fearless's career would finally come to an end. On July 31st, 2024, Fearless would announce his retirement as he would join the Korean military. After almost 7 long years, lots of ups and downs, one of the most legendary Overwatch careers finally ended. Fearless's story is a really cool testament to show you that you should never give up, truly. Anything can happen, from 0-40 to being the laughingstock of the league, to redeeming himself on the franchise he failed on, to his days in Dallas finally getting his ring, to his years after where he firmly cemented himself as one of the greats and the best Winston player of all time. We may never have another player quite like Fearless, and although his career may be over, we will always have the highlights.
Over to the Echo to try and get back to the point faster, but this choke point is being locked up once more. Fearless with the Primal Rage, and that is a death sentence in close quarters. Yep, not going to be surviving that one in that close room. Oh my god! Fearless is going to be keeping himself in the bubble, so he's avoiding the sleep dart. He plays it beautifully. Fielder is the one who actually gets the final blow in the end. But Fearless now just holding on to this Primal Rage. Jim move a last-ditch effort here. Now the Primal Rage comes out. Surely not Fearless.
No way.
Might be about to be witnessing something crazy. He's going to be disjointing them, pushing them out. Jimmu's like, get away from me. He's chasing me down in the Primal Rage. But it's not going to be enough. You cannot escape him.
Target. But Mei, you can insta-kill a Mei, right? Normally she hangs around for far too long because of ice. Oh my god! Fearless just snapped legs! The Atlanta Rain tried to turn around, and they were far too late.
The Blizzard 8 by Hawk. A wonderful play coming out there from the Atlanta Rain, but Gator has fallen. One move coming through with Gator down. That's Fearless with the freest shadow I've ever seen. So many bodies hitting the deck. That is unavailable for them, and now the Atlanta Rain.
Been falls, but Izuyaki's down. Where's the healing gonna be now? Shadow is gigantic. Fearless takes fate to his own hands. He eventually falls to the self-destruct, but the damage is done. The Dragons are limping forward. Fate is so low. His shield's about to crack, and so is the resolve of Shanghai. They are kicked off the cart.
One advantage here for the Dallas Fuel, though.
Only 2 players here for San Francisco. It's not much to work with here. How do they touch the cart? The bomber's going to be there, Violet's going to be forced away. He's in grave danger indeed. The touch is there from Striker. He has a net blossom, but there's no chance. The Dallas Fuel take their place amongst the stars. To burn brighter than them all. Rising to become your 2022 Overwatch League champions.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I think Fearless's story is one of the best ones from Overwatch's history, and I'm glad I get to share it with more people. If you like this video, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. We're really close to 2K subs, and getting support really helps motivate me to make more content like this. If you have any other players you'd like to see a video on, leave a comment down below to let me know. I have a Twitter, which is probably the easiest place to get me to see something, so follow me there if you like my stuff. Shoutouts to everyone who watched my stream last weekend. I'll be doing another one probably next weekend for the Stage 1 EMEA NA Final stuff, so I hope to see you all there. With that said though, thank you for watching.